Okay, so we're going to be doing a quick workshop on Use-Aragon, which is like a hooks library that we've been developing. So just a quick background on us. We're DAObox, we're a developer collective, a community based on Aragon. We're building DAO tooling to streamline the process of building DAOs. Of course, the focus on Aragon tooling stuff. And what we're going to be doing a workshop on today is like one of the products that we've been building, which is Use-Aragon. And it's essentially it's a React hooks library that enables you to seamlessly integrate your Aragon DAO into React front ends, right? So it makes it super easy to interact with your DAOs, to like pull information, like get votes, get members, interact with them as well, like create votes, vote on things, even create DAOs as well. So it's like it's quite opinionated, and it just makes it a lot easier to get started with, essentially. So the objective for today is we're just gonna like dive into a little bit of how it works with the queries and mutations. We're gonna find out like how to fetch information from DAOs, how to get members, balances, get votes, deposit ETH into a DAO, and hopefully we're gonna get through all of this stuff and basically create a vote to mint a DAO token, essentially, right? So the idea is that there's this Notion workspace. So even if you're watching the video, you can just follow along in the Notion as well. And hopefully once this is finished, we'll like get the recording and put it in this Notion as well. So it's like a little bit of a interactive tutorial, essentially. So yeah, you can follow along if you want to, or you can just like watch what I'm doing. And at any point, just feel free to jump in. If you have any questions or anything, just ask away, because I may go a bit quickly because we do only have an hour. Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna see if I can switch screens and you can you see my VS Code as well?
Yes.
Right now? Oh, perfect. Yeah, perfect. I just wanted to make sure that I could switch between these two different things, right? So so just to start off with, we've got like a boilerplate repo here. So if you go to this boilerplate here, it's just basically a Next.js application with Tailwind and some other libraries installed, right? It's got WAGMI, Rainbow Kit. It's literally like I just threw it together yesterday, so it's not like something production ready or anything, but it's definitely something that you could get started with just to learn how to use the packages, basically. Also, as well, we have a documentation site as well, right? It's all in the Notion space as well, so you get access to the docs. And yeah, if you didn't want to use our quick start guide, you can download the library and install it this way as well, right? So that, yeah, so I'm gonna give you an overview of the boilerplate, basically. So this is it, I've already got it like installed on my machine. It's got like a hello world sort of application in it. So I'm just gonna install and run the dev server. It's already installed. Gonna show you like what we have here. Okay, so this is like a hello world application with Use-Aragon. Essentially, all it is like it just using one of the hooks, the use fetch DAOs hook, and it's just like getting a bunch of different DAOs from the SDK, right? And you just hover over these, and if you click any one of these, it's going to take you to the Aragon client with that DAO, essentially, right? So it's just like a hello world example of how to use the hooks. Right, so that's just one of the DAOs. Let's see if we can just jump straight into the code. I could show you like the index.js file. Okay. Is my screen a bit small? Can you see it clearly?
It's fine. Like if you
it's good size, yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, so this is the index file. It uses the use fetch DAO hook, right? It's really simple. You just like call use fetch DAO. You don't even need to pass it any arguments. It just gives you, it has some defaults there. And we get back some data here, and then we map over that data and we just render out one of these DAO cards, essentially, right? And yeah, it's really as simple as that, right? In the documentation, it shows you how to like set this up, and it really is simple. like once you've installed Use-Aragon, all you've got to do is just like import provider, and like you just wrap your application in that provider, just like you do with any other provider, like with the WAGMI provider or your Rainbow Kit or whatever. You just like wrap your application as Aragon provider, and then you can access the hooks from anywhere as well, basically. So, so yeah, it's pretty as simple as that, to be honest. If we go into the documentation, because of course, like you're going to want to not just use the defaults, like you're going to want to, like, if you want to use the hooks, you can see what the parameters actually are. So we can see here that all the parameters are optional. You don't have to pass any of these like you just saw, but like we can do other things like use skip and limit. These come directly from the SDK as well. You can change the sort direction and the amount of DAOs you're fetching. So if we go back into this application and we go limit, and we just say instead of 10, we get like 100. And then we go back to our application. We'll see like we've got like 100 DAOs here, essentially, right? And it's just really as simple as that, to be honest. And that's like the hello world of using Use-Aragon.
So technically, you use this to kind of like index or query the result of the latest 10 DAOs or latest 100 DAOs that was created on Aragon.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. Like if you've used the SDK, it's pretty much the same thing, right? So you have like some methods on the SDK that allow you to do this. All this is doing is wrapping the SDK and giving you some things that you wouldn't have if you just did this directly using the SDK, right? So if you was using the SDK directly, you wouldn't get some of the nice features of using Use-Aragon. Like you have like some caching, you get like it's just like a state management thing as well. So you can call this in different React components, and like it dedupes the requests as well. So it just gives you like a nice performant way of using the SDK, and it actually has a few things that the SDK doesn't have as well. So some of the hooks that we have don't directly just use the SDK. Like we called the subgraph directly, and yeah, it's just like this is a really simple hook. It just fetches DAOs, but as you get to some of the more complicated stuff, it handles a lot more of the things for you, essentially. So yeah, all right, we've only got an hour, so I'm gonna like rush through this because I've done this once already, and it went to like an hour 15 minutes. So yeah, so what are we going to be building? This is like the finished product of what we're going to be building today. Oh wait, no, this is the wrong one. Okay, sorry. We're not going to see what we're building today. We're just going to get straight into it. Okay, but essentially what we are building is we're going to be building like a dashboard that allows you to deposit ETH in your DAO, to list, to get like a list of votes, to see who the members in the DAOs are, and get their balances and things like that, right? And to create a proposal to get a DAO token, essentially, right? To start off with, we are going to we create an Aragon app. I've actually got one created here as well. It's BitConnect DAO. It's definitely not a scam, by the way, guys. Yeah, you should. I don't know if you guys get this joke, right? But there used to be this thing called BitConnect a very long time ago. It's like one of the first really big crypto scams, right? And this is a bit of an Aragon meme as well. But anyway, we've got BitConnect DAO. We're going to be using this as our test for today. Yeah. Okay, so let's dive straight into it. So if we go into our application, I'm just going to copy this, right? So we're just going to create the header for our DAO. So I'm just going to delete everything that's in this app folder. And yeah, so there are a few things in this boilerplate that it comes with. So we've got like some of these components. They're just like layout components, this page view thing. And we also have this skeleton component that like it just renders a skeleton, like, so you can, let's just have a look at what it looks like right now. It's this thing that's coming in and out. That's just the skeleton component there. Okay, so let's go back to this workshop, see what's happening here. Okay, so now we're going to get this, we're just going to copy this component here. This is like a DAO card. It's just going to render like the DAO's avatar, its name and stuff like that. Of course, this isn't a React tutorial, like, so I'm just going to like go through this stuff pretty quickly. We don't want that card there. We want to get this from our components. Okay, so let's like have a look at what this looks like. What's this called? This is called DAO card. Guys are gonna have to really bear with me as well. I'm not like great at live coding either. So text. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that, guys. So, okay, this is our component here, right? This is like the DAO card component. Yeah, so it's rendering. So let's get some, let's actually use Use-Aragon and like populate this with some data. So if we go back to our file here, we can see, scroll down a bit, and this is the hook that we're gonna call. It's just a use fetch DAO hook. Right, I'm gonna import that from Use-Aragon. Also, like this DAO address here, we have to set this also as well. So let's go back to our Aragon DAO and get this address and put this in our constants file here. So we have a address here. It's a different one, so I'm gonna like take this, delete this, and then import it here. Yeah, so we've got this, we're getting this data in here. And before we even render it in our component, there's some like a few other things that I do want to show you as well. So we get these dev tools here. Use-Aragon is built on something called React Query, and it has these dev tools. If you use this in production, like if you push it to Vercel or something, these won't come up, of course, but like it's really handy for like as you're building your applications out to like get these dev tools. And basically, like this is just a call a query key. You can, if you just like go into the dev docs for React Query, you can find out a bit more about this. But what I really want to show you is the data that you get back with it, right? So this hook, it gives you back the DAO's address, the ENS domain, the metadata, and all of this stuff, right? So you can go into the documentation and like really dive into like all the things that it brings out, but the quickest way to like just find out is just to run the hook and see what you get back with it, right? So that's that. So now we've got the hook, let's actually use it. Let's go back to our thing here. And yeah, so inside our DAO card, we're gonna do this. We're gonna get the skeleton, and we're gonna wrap our application in the skeleton. Oh, no. Yeah, now we're gonna wrap this. And we're gonna take that hook from index and put it into this component here. And yeah, so what we're doing is we're calling useFetchDAO, we get back this data object and we're renaming it to DAO. And we're saying, okay, then like if the data is loaded, we're gonna render the card with the stuff in here. But of course, we still are not changing, we still haven't like used the DAO stuff here. So, and again, like because this is built with TypeScript and everything, we've got all the types exported, you get IntelliSense for everything, right? So what was this before? This was the ENS name. So if we just go DAO.ENS domain, and same thing here, change this to DAO.metadata.name. And the avatar, the image itself, we're going to get that from DAO.metadata.avatar. Of course, this could possibly be undefined as well. You don't have to provide an avatar, so we're going to be having that here. And this is like this IPFS URI to URL. It's like a helper function that we've included here as well. So you can turn like an IPFS image into like something that can be rendered. And we're going to call this, and this is like the fallback here as well. So it's DAO.address. It's just going to give you something else. So if we go back to our application now, we're actually getting all the stuff, right? So we're getting our logo and all the things connected, right? So like, obviously, you know, I've done this a million times, so we know where all the things are, but again, if you're just looking at the data, you can see like all the different things you get here, right? So avatar is generally, when you create a DAO, all your metadata is pushed to IPFS. So you can't just render an IPFS image. So you're gonna have to like convert that stuff basically, right? So, okay. So yeah, so that's basically the first bit done. We've got like a DAO header. We obviously haven't implemented any of this stuff yet, but let's push on because I know we're probably pushing for time now. What else do we want to do? Oh yes, last thing we want to do is, because like we're going to be doing a lot of stuff, we should actually refactor this component as well. So remove this from the main index file and just put it in its own file. So put that into components, save everything, and it should be all working again, right? Okay. Next step, member panel. Okay, so we've got the DAO's header. Now we want to like see the members. What members have we got in the DAO? What are their token balances, and like display that on the front end as well. So here's another component. Like it's gonna render like a card with a user's information on it. Okay, so let's update all this stuff again. From here, we want that from components, and we want that text from Tremor. And this is why I removed the flow by earlier on, because there's too many, like those things was conflicting. But anyway, here we are. In this page view, there's like a prop for right column, and like that's where we're going to render all of these DAO cards. So let's just put the member card here for now, just to see what it looks like. Let's go back here. And like, this is like what one of the member cards is going to look like. And essentially, we want to like down this side of the page, we want to render all the different members essentially, right? All these values are hard coded in as well. So yeah, let's change that. Okay, so yes, we've done that. We're going to create a new component called member list. So we're not just going to be putting like a whole bunch of like members in this right column. Let's copy this. And this is where we're going to actually like fetch the members, fetch like all the different members and their balances. So got to import that from Use-Aragon. And yeah, so before we move on, actually, let's remove this member list and close that off. Oops. Yeah, okay. Voting address is not defined. Of course, it's not defined. So how are we going to get the voting address now, right? So, so in our DAO, one of like, again, we're getting all the data from here. We could just go into our plugins and see like all the different bits of information that's on here. So we have like the plugin address like on this DAO hook. So I'm going to copy this address here, put it into our constants, change the voting address here. and then I'm going to import it. And yeah, so we're rendering this members list now. So let's have a look. And now we get it here, right? So we get this query key here, and we can see the data that we're getting. So we've got 4 members here, right? And yeah, that's their addresses and their balances essentially, right? So we're not seeing those right now. So let's actually like render those. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Let's update our member list function here. That there. Import that skeleton again. Run that and see what we get. Okay, so now we got 4 members, but of course we haven't actually like passed that data in. We just like rendered 4 members because we're mapping over the data that we're getting, right? So we're mapping over this members object here, this with 4 members in it. So let's update this. Of course, like we're passing in things that it doesn't have at the moment. So if we just remove all of this hard coding, and in fact, let me go back to our Notion document and copy and paste the code in from here. All right, so I'm just gonna copy top of that actually. Right, so what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna pass in like the data, like again, like just to drive home the point, like we can go to the documentation and like really dive in, see what these hooks return. So use fetch members and balances, and these docs are a little bit out of date as well. So not all of the hooks are actually here, and this hook isn't there right now. But we can go into the thing and see exactly like the shape of the data and what it returns, right? So we know it returns an address and a balance. So we're going to need an address and a balance, and we're going to hard code in the token symbol because we know what it is. It's only like 1,000. So yeah, and now once we've done that, when we go back to our application, we should see like the addresses with the tokens and stuff like that, essentially. So is everyone following me so far? Like if there's anything like that you want to just dive in with, just ask a question. So
I'm following you, sir.
Cool. So yeah, and lastly, let's just clean up the code at the moment because it's like don't have all this stuff in the same place. Let's move this all to a new file. Put it into components. Okay, like halfway through. Still got quite a bit to get through. Okay, yeah. And now we're going to go to, okay, we're gonna like list out some proposals, right? So this is a bit of a like bigger component, right? This is like, I know like everyone's a bit different. I'm obviously not like a front-end developer, I'm more of a back-end person, right? But I don't like to see like loads of, I don't like to have all of the hooks and the presentation stuff all like stuffed into one component because it makes it really difficult for me to see, right? So this is like, it's just gonna render out a proposal card, like all the information about a particular proposal. And going to import all the stuff. Okay, again, add text here. Okay, that looks like it looks okay. It's got the dummy data in here. Let's like see what it looks like. Proposal card. Do a couple of these. And let's see what that looks like. Okay, so now we've got some dummy proposals here, right? So this is what it's going to look like. We've got like a title here, like a status if it's active or not, like some, you know, the description, and then like a bar to say whether it's like what the status is of it, and you know, some buttons to actually vote on these cards, on these proposals. Okay. So yeah, okay, let's go back to our document. right? So we've just basically done that, just like showed some of these, what they look like before we actually start to bring in the hooks, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get another component to render out all of these proposals. So, right, and again, we're gonna introduce another hook, use fetch proposals. So we can introduce that, right? And then of course the DAO address, which we've got in constants. And yeah, skeleton as well, we need to import that too. And let's get rid of this stuff here and just bring in that proposal list. And again, same pattern again, we go back into the UI, look in the dev tools, see we've got these proposals here, and like we can see that we've actually got a couple of proposals here already. Right, so there's this proposal here. Look in the metadata, what does it say? Okay, it's just a test, see another one. Yeah, you get the idea, you know, mint some tokens to this address, whatnot. So yeah, so basically, let's, what we're gonna do now, we're gonna map through these proposals and, which we're already doing at the moment, and listing out this proposal card, right? So if we go back, actually, you can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So we've got 4 proposals there. So now we need to essentially like remove all this hard coding and get like the real data in there, right? So yeah, let's go back here. Okay. So I'm just going to remove all of this hard code in here and just replace it, of course. And by the way, as well, like, because this is just like, you know, a really quick explanation and we're doing a hackathon here, we're not really going through all the TypeScript stuff, but all of the types, like where there are types that came from the Aragon SDK, we're re-exporting them. And some, like for some of the stuff, it's really like handy to have the types, right? Because it just makes it a lot easier with like IntelliSense, and you know, you're not gonna be passing things, because you can get these really weird and frustrating bugs where if you're passing something that like is not supposed to be there, you won't really understand. Sorry, I'm just gonna check the chat as well because I haven't been picking up. Yeah, PNPM, by the way, amazing. Trust me, it's 2023. Don't use NPM, at least if you're using Yarn, at least. But PNPM, it's super fast, like definitely, right? Are nice, the functions. Yes, all of this stuff is like part of these Aragon hooks, right? So, but yeah, we are basically just wrapping the SDK. And also as well, before I forget, there is a shareable link for this Notion document. I'm gonna post it in the chat as well. There we go. Okay, so yeah, so what have I, let me get back to this now. Yeah, so we're just getting this, these proposals. We've seen what the shape of data is, so we know what it's like, and we're just passing it in. I've destructured a lot of this stuff because like these proposals, there's a lot of stuff that comes inside this particular piece of data, right? So you get like metadata, which is itself another object. It's got a few things in it. You get the status, you get like the results as well. So I've just destructured it all so I can just like basically like just replace the dummy data essentially, right? But yeah, so let's save that, go back, have a look at what it's saying in the front end, and yeah, so you can see that we're getting some stuff out, right? So this is just a test. I've already voted yes on this. Yeah. And that's pretty much it. Like, so the read stuff, like, so these read hooks are called like queries. They're like, as you can see, they're really straightforward. It's really, really straightforward to get information from the hooks, right? Where it gets a bit more complicated using the SDK or even Use-Aragon is when you actually have to like write some data to the chain, right? That's where it gets a bit more, this is where like this, in my opinion, where this really shines, this Use-Aragon hook shines. So let's go back to this Notion document so we don't get lost. Yeah, tidy up. Let's refactor this, move this to a new file, drop it in components, save, make sure we didn't break anything. Yeah, we're good. Okay, cool. So before we move forward, let's just have a quick recap. So we've got this, we're getting the information from the DAO itself, like avatar and all that stuff. We're getting some members, we're getting some proposals. We're like, we've got all of the view stuff done, right? Really quick, really simple, really straightforward, I hope. Right, now let's move on to the next bit, which is where it gets a bit more interesting. Okay, so we're gonna like implement that button, essentially that deposit ETH button, right? So inside this boilerplate, we've also got like a base modal here, right? And then inside that modal, I'm just gonna like put in text input and a button so we can like specify how much we want to put in. So yeah, let's copy that, bring that into our code here, import everything. Yeah, it's all looking good. Text input. This is why I wanted to remove Flowbyte, because it clashes with the other library that we're using. So yeah, this is from Tremor, so I'm going to import this. Oops, sorry, text input. From, is it Tremor? I think it is. There we go. And yeah, so we've got that in. We're going to add it to the DAO card, like right at the bottom. Hold on. Hold on. Made a mistake. Sorry, guys. This doesn't go here. We're in the index file. So okay, so what was, let's go back again, sorry. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to like implement this deposit ETH button, right? So we need to actually be in that component, of course. All right, so let's go back to these components. The DAO card components. Drop this in here. Add all missing imports. Have we got it in the right place? Flowbyte? Yeah, yeah. Text input is not supposed to be from there. It's in this one here. Okay, and deposit modal, and I'm just going to add it inside here, right? So this is just like, this modal is just like from what's it called? Headless UI. It's just like a simple modal. What did I break? In the index file. Okay, we can get rid of all this stuff. We don't need this. Save that. Is G space missing? Okay, yes. I get that. No problem. No problem. Let's just comment this out for now until we like add all the rest of the things in. Let's go back to our docs. Yeah, so we've got like we're importing the modal and with all the different state things, but we haven't actually like brought those in, right? So we've got use-fetch-DAO here. Yeah, none of this is hooks at the moment. We're just setting up the state for the modal itself. So let me just do that. State, add all missing imports. Okay, cool. Yes, and I wasn't really using it properly either. So let's import modal. Go back, see. Of course, it's not gonna actually, if I'm clicking this button, nothing's gonna happen, obviously, because I haven't set the on click for it. So on click, and what is this? It's set is deposit modal open, right? true. Okay, now we go. There we go. So we've got our deposit modal. It's going to allow us to, deposit some ETH in the DAO. But we haven't done, this is all like setup stuff, but we haven't even used the hooks yet, right? So, okay, let's hook this up. No pun intended to the hooks. So what we've got here. So how do we do this, right? So before we was using these queries, so we're just getting like so yes, we don't need this. Let me just update this quickly before I explain. So like in the, when we're doing queries, like we're going to get back some data and there's going to be a few things like that. But when we're using mutations, we're going to get back this thing called a mutate function, right? And this mutate function is literally just the thing that it's just a function that you're going to call to like send some information to the blockchain, right? So like the big difference between these two things is that like the queries, as soon as your page renders, right, or the component that you've got your hook in renders, it's going to like keep trying to like fetch that data because it's just reading stuff, right? And if it fails, there's no problem because you just read it and it will just like try to refetch in the background intelligently. But of course, like a mutation, you don't want to like when your page renders to just start sending transactions, right? So that's the big difference between these, right? But yeah, so all you do is you just pass it like what we're trying to do here is we've got this use deposit ETH hook. And all we need to do to deposit ETH is just give it a DAO address and an amount. And the SDK requires a bigint here. I think you probably could just pass a string, but it says bigint, so we're going to wrap it in a bigint, right? And then, yeah. So in this handle deposit, which we're going to pass to that button inside the modal in a moment. Yeah, like once you've passed in all of given it the amount, it's just going to basically set it in here, pass it in here, and like mutate it in here basically. So let's go all the way down to submit and on click. And we're going to say handle. Actually, how's it coming? It's on deposit, isn't it? Let me see, on deposit. Yes, there we go. So on deposit. And we're going to see, hopefully, let's just open the dev tools as well. So let's put 1, 2, 3. Okay, so something happened. And I'm getting this is my sign I'm using frame, sign this transaction. But again, like, okay, so it worked, but this is not great, right? Like this is like, I can keep clicking this button, the button's not disabled, like you have no information or no status that like something has happened, right? Whether it's an error or it succeeded, like this isn't a great thing. It's not a great experience, right? But we do provide a lot of helpful things. You don't just get this mutate, you get like a whole bunch of other things as well, right? So if you just like open up your IntelliSense, you get like loads of different things that you can use here as well. But the thing that we're actually looking for is deposit status, right? So if we go into the documentation now, because this is like a really good time when you're doing these mutations to really dive into the docs. So in use deposit ETH, we can see we get back this deposit status here, right? So it would all the way through the life cycle of the transaction, like, or whether of the hook as it's inside your component, you get all of these different things, right? So you get idle, if nothing's happened, it's just been loaded. If you press the button and it's waiting for the signer, you get that. If it's confirming, successful error, you get all of these different things, right? So we're going to use these to like disable the button and to show a loading state as well. Let's go back in here. Okay, cool. Deposit status, and we're gonna like. So we've got this deposit status thing here. We're gonna use this is processing. So we're gonna create like a function, basically like if this deposit status it's currently says it's waiting for sign or it's confirming, then it's basically gonna come back true. So we can use that to disable this button essentially, right? Disabled equals, equals is processing. There you go. We can also use the spinner as well. So this has got a loading spinner built into it. So also is processing, right? And while we're at it as well, right? Yes, it's gonna like have that spinner there, but we can also update the label of the button itself, right? To show what stage the transaction's in. So if it's processing, right? If it's like in this processing state, it's gonna like show the deposit status. Or if it's not, if it's just like idle or it's succeeded or failed, it's gonna carry on showing this deposit ETH, right? So let's go back and give this a shot. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, like much better. So we get this waiting for signer, because obviously it's waiting for me to sign the transaction. Right, as I've signed it, it's going to be confirming. And of course, like not only am I getting those states, I can't actually keep clicking this button as well, right? So that's nice. But again, this is great. This is all good. And that looks like it's worked. But again, we still have one other thing. We're not really getting, so we're getting feedback in this button, but you're going to want to do something else with that transaction hash, or you're going to want to like show a toast or something else, right? So what else do we have in, what else tricks does this hook have? It has callbacks as well. So, okay, I'm just going to copy this and explain it. Right, so I'm going to go back up here to our hook. So I'm going to delete this for a second. Okay, add this in. These are just some helper functions as well, like to like format strings and stuff like that. So what we've got, what's happening here? So we're using, so one thing that's not actually Use-Aragon related, but we're using Rainbow Kit. We're using Rainbow Kit here, and like when you open this up, you get like these recent transactions, right? So like they've got a hook so you can pass in a transaction hash and it will store all your recent transactions for you. So we're going to be using that as well. But what's really important here is that like inside this hook, like with the address and all of that, like we can pass, like all of these things are optional, but you can add in like an on transaction. So as soon as the transaction hash comes back in, do something with that transaction hash. On success, do something with like the data that comes back, right? Or on error, like do something with the error, right? And here, like we're just adding some toasts, right? So also as well, like this data is typed as well. So if you wanted to do something with that data, like data, like, so we're seeing what, like the data we're getting back is the deposit, the actual amount that we've deposited and the TX hash. But yeah, essentially like this is like all of these different things, all like each little one's like a small thing, but all combined together, this just makes it like a much better developer experience to like build these complicated interactions with Aragon, like just using these hooks. These are things that you wouldn't get out of the box, like using the SDK on its own, right? So let's do this again, see what we get. Waiting for signer again, cool. Let's sign this transaction. Okay, and now we're getting like a toast. As soon as we get the transaction hash back inside the thing, we're getting like depositing, it's confirmed. We can go to Etherscan, see the transaction, all that good stuff, right? Okay, cool. Let's see how much time we have left. We've got 10 minutes left. Okay, cool. So, okay, the only thing with this is like again, this ends up being a lot of code, right? So I like to, again, I want to like abstract a lot of this stuff out, right? So I'll just like put all of this stuff into a custom hook and like just bring it into a component. So let me go back here and see. Let's just do that quickly. So I'm gonna use this. collapse the DAO card, collapse the modal for a second. Bring this in here. And export this DAO card. Copy this. Okay, cool. So now let's just have a look at what we have here now. So we've just extracted this into like this custom use deposit hook, and we're just getting all the things back that we care about, like the amount, the set amount, those use states for the handle deposit. Really and truly, to be honest, like I didn't have to export these. We could have like used the handle deposit, put it in there as well, but you know, yeah. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna like, again, move this to a new file, deposit modal. Yeah, so it's okay to be there, use deposit, move that to the hooks folder. Keep it all tidy. And that is our first mutation. And that's pretty much that. Let's have a look. Okay, I see we've got 8 minutes left. Let's see if we can speed, let's see if we can speed through this and actually implement this mint token, right? Okay, cool. Go forward, mint token. Okay, now this is probably a shame that we've got 8 minutes left, because this is a bit more, this is like, it is a bit more complicated as well. So there's a few more concepts that we have to like really wrap our head around, right? So, so when we mint a token in the DAO, of course, like if we just want to deposit funds to the DAO, we don't need any permission to do that, right? This is our money, we could just send the thing. The hooks are just like allowing us to do all of those nice those UX things like presenting loading states and to the user, right? But to mint a token or to do anything that's sensitive like that, we're gonna have to create a vote. And to create a vote, you have to like, there's obviously, you have to create a proposal, and there's a specific format that you have to do, right? So if we go to the docs, let's go to the hook that we want here is a use new proposal, right? And this is how the hook looks, right? So you use new proposal. There are some things that are required and there are some things that are not required. And in fact, as I'm looking at this now, I'm sure that description is either description or something. One of these two are not actually required, right? So, but this is like the minimum amount of information that you have to give the hook to make it work, right? There's a whole bunch of other things you can add as well. Like fail-safe, like these things here, we definitely don't have enough time to really explain, but like if you have like a whole bunch of actions that you're sending, like you can say, okay, then we're okay with one of these transactions failing and don't revert the whole thing, essentially, right? But yeah, so this is going to create a vote. You can also like, votes can be just votes. People can just like have a signaling vote, but then most of the time you're going to want like some action to actually happen. You're going to want the DAO to do something, right? And there's this concept of like these actions, and you kind of like the way the DAO has to, for the DAO to actually execute these, it's like a low level thing, right? So you have to encode these actions. But yeah, the SDK provides some like encoders, as they're called, to do different things. And we also export these things as well. So what we're trying to do here is we want to mint a token. So we have to encode that as a mint token action. But anyway, for 5 minutes, let me just like power through it and wag me. Yeah, so we're going to provide some initial state as well. So like we're importing this type to make sure we don't really mess up from Use-Aragon. It comes directly from the SDK. So yeah, so we need to have the title, the summary, the description, the resources, and all this different type of stuff. I don't think I have this in my constants. I don't, so I'm gonna have to create that now. The end date is like an actual date object. So if we wanna say like for 1 day, we're gonna say new date, and we're gonna have to do this again, new date, dot get time, and that's gonna give us like the time in 7 days from now, right? And that doesn't look too nice, and it's not really user-friendly. So I'm going to refactor that and extract it to a constant. I'm going to call that 7. days 7. And in fact, I don't even want this to be 7 days. I want this to be 1 day. So let's just do this 1 day, remove that 7, days 1. So yeah, so the initial state is going to be this. Right, and now we have to update that somehow, right? So let's go back to our, so we're going to copy this. I'm going to explain it as I put it into the VS Code. It's handle deposit. This is handle mint. Okay. Voting token. This is, let's import this as well. This is not the correct one. We're going to change this as well in a moment. But let me explain exactly what's happening here. So this, we're going to call this function on, when we press that button, we're going to call this function here, right? So if for some reason that this address is not, it's not like it's undefined, we're just going to return nothing. As earlier as I explained, we want the DAO to do something. We want it to mint this token. We get this, we use this thing called this encodement token, basically, right? It just takes in the amount of tokens we want to mint, who we want to mint them to, and the address of the token that we want to mint, right? And now we're gonna like set the state. So we had some initial state here, and now what we're gonna be doing when we press this button, like we're gonna like pretend that we had some form here, right? And we're just gonna like update the vote itself, right? So we're gonna set a title, create a summary, mint 1 token to this address with the same description, and we're going to pass in this this encoded action that we just created here. But before we do that, we need to get this token address, right? So how are we going to get this token address? We go back into our dev tools as well. On the proposals, we actually like it passes it in. We also have a hook for this as well, by the way. So you've got like a get tokens hook to give it an address of a DAO, and you would get like the tokens address as well, but could I get it from here? And we're gonna put it in our constants file, voting token. And what else we want to do? We want to pass this handle mint to this mint token button. So on click. And yeah, let's try this out. Okay, same deal though, right? No loading states, anything like that. So we know the score. We're just gonna add all that stuff in now. Before we do that though, there's something that I don't quite like about this, right? We've got our proposals, as I'm looking at it right now, is starting from the first proposal and going downwards, right? So like, that's the oldest proposal. We want like the latest proposal to be on top, right? So before we proceed, since we've got a little bit more time now, right? I'm gonna go back into the proposals list and like update this hook, right? So we've got this use fetch proposals here, right? And let's, it takes a, so if I actually add a comment here, then I can get IntelliSense. Direction is what we're looking for. And you can see it's sort direction we get. And I can't remember if this is ascending or descending. Let's just say descending. Let's see what that does. Yeah, that's the correct way around, right? So we want like to come up first. So yeah, okay, let's close this down. Let's go back into our DAO card component and start adding the rest of those things back in. So in the hook, Where is this hook? Use new proposal. Okay, here we go. And we want proposal status. And the proposal status here, right? It has like a lot more fields on it. Let's go back to the docs just to show you what I'm talking about. So use new proposal. Like there's a whole, there's a lot more statuses that, I know it's not a word, that this could be in, right? So instead of like checking if it's all of these, we're just going to check for the negative, right? So if it's not in an idle, success, or error state, then that means it is processing, right? So we're just checking the negative instead of like checking for all of those different things. Let's go back to here and just copy this button here, copy the updated button. Here we go, mint token. And yeah, and while we're here, we know the score of these callbacks, so we might as well just add these in now as well. That's not. See, this is why I don't like looking. This is why it takes me a while to like see what's happening here when there's so much different things happening in a component. Like I'm trying to find the hook, and it's like there's so much stuff here. Use new proposal. Here we are, and just make some space here. Okay, just add all the stuff again. And let's change this up as well so we can see. One token to this address live. Okay, so we're doing the same thing. We've seen the same pattern before, you know, like once the transaction comes in, open a toast, on success, all that stuff. We've seen this already. Let's do this again. Waiting for signer. Look how expensive these Gorelli transactions are. 226 Gwei. This is bloody crazy. Okay, cool. It's updating. We get the toast here. We've got an error here. It's saying deposit ETH. It should be saying create a proposal, but whatever. And yeah. And in a second, that should have invalidated this here, and we should get that new vote up here. I'm not sure why that's not working, but let's just refresh the page. See what it's doing. Okay, let's look in the DevTools. What is the latest proposal? Okay, so at the bottom. Okay, can't actually find it here, but there you go. And that's about it. That is like the end of it. Those are the fundamental hooks. We covered like that you can read, how to write. There's like loads of other hooks as well. Over the next couple of days, we're going to update the documentation because we've got like a whole bunch of other hooks that allow you to create DAOs as well. So you can create a DAO with the hooks. We've got a few custom plugins as well that you can actually launch with these with the hooks as well. And yeah, if there's any questions about like how to do something with these hooks or anything, then just hit us up and we'll be more than happy to help essentially. And the last thing that we did have left as well was to like do these implement these buttons, but I was going to leave that to you guys to like try yourself essentially. We have this we have the Notion document. We're going to pass it in, and I'm going to add this recording minus the bit where we was stuck with the avatar and leave that on the Notion document as well. But yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for attending and really appreciate it.
Thank you, Aaron. That was amazing to
No problem.
see. Great workaround. I just left a bit of the link on the chat. If you want to check out like the bounties where you can use this, go to DAOglobalhackathon.com/bounties. There's a lot of cool stuff that can be built there. And if you haven't yet registered, I'll also add in the register link. And Tony, if you could share again the Notion for everyone to have it. I think there's a great research to go through all of what you've shared with us today, Aaron. So thank you very, very much.
No problem. Thank you, guys. Okay.